everybody. This is
Hey,
Marketing
everybody.
Mondays 94.
So, hey, I got a question for you. Why sometimes am I on the left and sometimes on the right? I don't get. Is
It's
there
the
a
order
rhyme?
of let's see if I can switch you around. Does
There
that
you
make you
go.
feel a little
There
bit
you go.
better?
I'm getting comfortable on the right. I like being on the right.
It's whichever one I click first. And that right before I'm like, I can't remember which side he wants to be on or which one's said. So I can always switch mid show if you need me to. So
No, that's okay.
Thank
Well, hey,
you.
everybody.
Yes.
Hope you guys are having a great week. A lot of the country is starting to have a little bit nicer weather, a little bit warmer weather. In talking to a lot of our clients, I'm noticing that some of them are saying business is starting to show a little bit of signs of life. A lot of that might be the weather, and a lot of it might be tax returns coming in, a little bit of both, maybe. So, anyway, it's a great time of the year in our industry. Typically, this is a time where things start picking up and they stay pretty solid all the way through to the fall. So I hope you guys weathered the storm of the winter, and now is the start of things picking up for you. So
Absolutely. That the freeze is over. I know we're getting 70s tomorrow and 20s on Thursday or Wednesday, whatever day. It's craziness of early spring in the Midwest.
yeah, is what it is. I mean, we're on the downhill side of it now, though. So
yeah. Well, what I wanted to talk about today was kind of finding tools that'll make things much more efficient for you kind of in the marketing realm. And we've kind of touched on some of these in the past, and some of the stuff we might repeat, but I think there are some new things that I've come across, as well as we've talked a lot about the AI, whether it's ChatGPT or Bard, which is now Gemini, which is something we can kind of look into. There's been a lot of controversy around it recently, just with some of the way that the algorithm within it works. I think it's kind of the first fumble of AI, and we'll kind of see how that goes, just of how everything has come out from the prompts and kind of what it's doing. But I think it's just kind of wanted to get into some of the stuff that I think people can benefit from. And the first one that I will mention that has been super helpful for us, as far as somebody who has a podcast like this, that can take a video and kind of turn it into a bunch of social media clips. And for me, that was something I was kind of doing by hand, and it would take quite a few hours to kind of go through and find what piece of material from a clip sounded good or had like good information in it. And I have found this, it's a website. It's called Opus Clip. Let me type it in the comments here. So even if you have not a half an hour video like this, but I think it's something where if you have maybe a longer format, 5 to 10 minute like YouTube video that you've put out and it's horizontal, and you're like, man, I'm not savvy with video editing. I don't know how to take this piece of content and turn it into more pieces. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. And it's like, I don't know how to edit or do any of this stuff.
let's start at like the beginning and say, we've talked about AI before. I wanted to kind of break it down right here, and a lot of people are a little confused about what AI is, how you should use it appropriately, all these different things. What we're here to talk about tonight is the fact that there are some tools out there that can allow your job to be dramatically easier. That does not mean copying and pasting from Bard or ChatGPT, or I guess it's Gemini instead of Bard now. That is not copying and pasting from that. But here's the thing. These tools, and a little bit of what Ronnie was getting into with regard to Opus Clip, these tools can allow you to accomplish much more with the time. Your most valuable asset that you have is your time. And what these AI tools will allow you to do is accomplish a lot more with your time. It doesn't mean that you should basically just farm it all out to AI and expect it to do all the work. But if you can take 15 minutes of your time and combine it with an AI tool and do what you used to do in an hour and a half in 15 minutes, man, that tool is going to make you that much more productive. So what we're talking about here is not going down the road of just relying on AI to do everything. it's maximizing the time that you have to accomplish the most that you can with your time. And that's what the things that we're going to talk about today are. So I'm going to kick it back to Ronnie to talk about Opus Clip, but I think what he started to talk about there, and that's why I wanted to break it down a little bit, was he used to do a lot of these things manually, and it took him a long time. And now he's utilizing an AI tool to be able to do the same type of work, but save him dramatically on time so that I can give him that much more work to do, you know.
Yeah. No, thank you. I got very excited because once I kind of discovered this thing, and especially for what we do and kind of putting out content and having a plan for it, is time consuming, obviously. And so once I found this, I was like, I think I sent it to you, and man, I was super excited. I was like, man, this is going to save me a ton of time. And that's when we were talking about topics. That's essentially what I wanted to share with people. Was I want to be able to help if you're a busy window film tint shop owner, and you're maybe it's you and husband or wife is the only one that's kind of working with you, and you don't have much time. Obviously, you know, marketing and doing all these things is important, whether it's posting on social media. But the thing that we hear from so many people, it's one, I don't know how to do any of the video editing. I don't have time to do any of the video editing, and I don't even know where to start. And so I think, one, here's a place to start to at least kind of look at it with kind of get your pen and paper out. I want people to kind of write these different ones down and do your own research is obviously the big thing. And it's helped. I completely agree with what you said as far as not just kind of blindly using AI and not kind of thinking. I'm appreciative of the fact that I know how to break these things down long wise, and it's obviously it makes it much more important or special to me if I'm able to, or more valuable is the word I'm looking for, to have a tool that's going to work. No different than the stuff that's in your tool belt. It's if you all of a sudden get a brand new tool that can make things more efficient, whether it's putting in safety film with, I saw somebody with one of the new big like Thor's hammer essentially type deals. So hopefully these are tools that will help you in the same way that whether window film tools, that the new pieces that kind of come out and people are like, oh, I like how that works. And it has this new little feature. And that's essentially what we're trying to help you guys out with this.
The first time we spoke about AI was probably 6 months ago, and the tools have gotten dramatically better just since then. I mean, this thing is accelerating to the point where it's almost scary. I mean, Bard, who I used to talk, that's the Google version of ChatGPT, is now called Gemini. They've rebranded it. There's a lot of cool new features on it. I haven't even exhausted all the different things, but you know, where we've utilized it at iMagnet is to take tasks that we do every day and figure out ways to reduce the amount of time so that we can, because there's certain things ChatGPT can't do. So, but there's other things it does really well. So if you could take the tools that it has to reduce the time, it frees up more time for you to, in our cases, for me, to be more creative on some of the things that I'm doing and allow ChatGPT to do the blocking and tackling type stuff. So I don't have to take the time to do as much of the blocking and tackling. I can focus on the things that, you know, are probably the most valuable, which is the creative and the copy and things like that. And then actually just utilize ChatGPT to help me do the things that realistically, there's not really a big differentiation. It's just, it's got to be done, but editing the video clips, things like that, it's got to be done, but you know, it's not a differentiator. I mean, one of the things ChatGPT can't do is do what we're doing right now. So by utilizing ChatGPT, it allows us more time to do more things like this, which is something ChatGPT or AI can't do, but you know, we could utilize those tools to free up more time so we can do more of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing too that I've noticed is for me, I've been utilizing. To me, I feel like I'm using it most of the day because it's like I can use this Opus clip to kind of create, and it offers you, do you want 30-second clips, 30 to 60? And you can kind of define that. You can add in B-roll footage, and it kind of does all that. And as well as no different than like a Chat GPT, there is like a little prompt. where you can write in and say, hey, I want to feature this type of, I'm looking to highlight A, B, or C. And so it's made it tremendously easy to fast forward and kind of schedule content, which is obviously the goal for anybody. But like we mentioned last week, like creating content is obviously hard. And then taking that content and trying to break it down to other pieces is even more complicated.
Well, and that's where like we're taking this time to do this piece of it right here. But then what Ronnie is able to do with Opus Clip is take this 130-minute Marketing Mondays and break that up into maybe as many as
30.
10 to 20 to 30 different individualized pieces of content, so we could put those up on YouTube, for YouTube Shorts, social media, all those different things. So we're maximizing this half hour. We're taking this half hour and squeezing the maximum amount of blood out of this half hour as we can. And that's where I feel like everybody needs to understand Chat GPT, AI, Bard, whatever you want to call it, or whatever whatever AI platform you're using is going to allow you to get more done in the time that you have.
And that's obviously what we hope for everybody, is being more efficient. And so there's another one that's similar. I can't remember if it's specific. These are all weird names that are kind of coming out now. But like Get Munch, Firecut, Perplexity, Suno, Wave Farmer. So there's lots of different ones that are out there. I watched probably 3 or 4 different YouTube videos on guys just kind of explaining different AI tools. And there's so many of them. Just like you said, it's been maybe a year. Last year is kind of when everything kind of started out, and we didn't start talking.
GPT really hit February of last year. So it's just been about a year.
Yeah. So it's
now people were utilizing a version of it before then, but when it really went mainstream was like February of last year. So it's a year old.
Yeah. And just the way that it's grown, whether it's Photoshop, kind of seeing them, it's from being able to just type in something and it creates an image within your picture, or like we've mentioned too, using ChatGPT to create, like you said, for the YouTube. So we'll put this out. When I put it on YouTube, typically I'll write out, hey, in ChatGPT, I'm like, can you create me a YouTube video description for Marketing Mondays with Patric and Ronnie, focused on this, this, and this. And I want to kind of refer people back to our website. And it gives me a great paragraph. And obviously, just like we said, I'll go in there and tweak different pieces that I feel like, okay, you were kind of right on this. The AI was close as far as the way we were trying to describe this. But obviously, go back, re-edit, and make sure that it's not saying something that's not true to what you're trying to come across.
Yeah, you can't just rely on it to just copy and paste it. I was doing something with it the other day, and it was a bigger thing that I was looking at. I was doing some research on something, and I was reading through a paragraph, and all of a sudden, one sentence in the middle of the paragraph was written in Arabic. I don't know why, but it was like, so you can't just use these platforms to just spit stuff out and put it straight out into the internet or on posting. You have to use it, like Ronnie said. It spits out a paragraph. Again, he's breaking up something like this piece of content into 30 different pieces. So now he's got to create descriptions for those 30 pieces and things like that. So he's using it to help him with that, but he's still reading through what it's spitting out to make sure it makes sense and modifying it a little bit and then using it. But it allows him to probably save, I would imagine, 50 to 75% of the time that it would take to do it individually. But do not, and I said this the very first time we talked about AI, do not get in the habit of just trusting that something that's coming out of an AI platform, you can take that and put it straight out there. Because just this last week, there was just a random sentence in the middle of a paragraph that was written in Arabic, and the rest of the paragraph was written in English. And I don't know why that happens. They have different things they call like AI hallucinations and things like that happen. But, you definitely need to read over it. Use it as a tool. Don't use it as like, you can't trust it 100%.
And that goes to what I mentioned earlier with Gemini. And having stuff come out in the last week or so of it being kind of not racist, but just kind of biased and not featuring like white people. Like if you ask it, show me a picture of the Pope, it would always have somebody like a colored Pope. And so there's definitely pieces of this that are sketchy, to say the least. And so that's why we're saying, make sure you're not just taking this and throwing it out and saying that it's yours, because all of a sudden it might misrepresent you, and then you might be in trouble. And for somebody like,
and you're not going to be able to rely on an excuse that, oh, I got that from AI. That's not going to be a good excuse. I mean, you need to, you need to review everything you're using from AI and make sure it's, and again, that doesn't mean, I'll give you a good example, like where I would maybe use Gemini. Creating a piece of content for a client, I know I want to have it to be 600 words or more. So I've written a piece of content. I've written everything up for them, ready to go. But I need another 50 words or something like that for the conclusion. And my conclusion's a little bit light. So I may take my entire conclusion that I wrote, and I may put that into Gemini, and I may say, please rewrite this conclusion and make it, 200 words instead of 150 words, so that I could get up to the 600 word or the 600 word total threshold I'm trying to get for the piece of content. And it'll take what I've already done and create a little bit longer version of that. I still will read it and I still will modify from that. It just allows me really quickly to be like, I need 50 more words. Let me have Gemini spit out something with 50 more words, and then I could tweak it, and boom, I'm off to the. So it's still my work, but I'm just utilizing AI to help with that.
Somebody just asked, why would I want to use one over the other? I only use ChatGPT. And that's something I did want to kind of feature here in a little bit, would be kind of, let's see what's different. I think right now, I don't think either one of us has a preference. I think maybe you've leaned towards Gemini and Bard a little bit more. Yeah. Just because it's more of a Google focus, and a lot of the work that we do is kind of based through and around Google. So we want to make sure that we're kind of making sure that this is the pieces that we're using.
I mean, I'll give you my answer to that. Historically, it doesn't mean anything to do with AI. Historically, Google has always given you a little bit of a extra credit, if you will, to utilize Google platforms. I feel like if you're utilizing AI, Google and other platforms probably have the ability to detect whether something is AI. There's programs out there that can tell whether it's AI. So I like to use Gemini and Bard because I feel like if I'm creating content that I want to be SEO'd primarily for Google, and I might be totally wrong on this because Google hasn't said this, but I kind of in the back of my mind think there might be a little bit of an extra bonus if that AI content was written by Google versus ChatGPT. That's just the way it's always historically worked with Google, is they tend to give you a little bit of a benefit for utilizing their platforms versus another company's platforms. So
yeah,
they're basically very similar. I don't know that they spit out the exact same information because they're two different platforms, but you could utilize Gemini the same way you utilize ChatGPT. And I'm not saying one's better than the other. I just utilize it for that reason.
And it's also where you're using it. I think that's the big thing. I'm not for sure, but I would say the majority of the time you're on your desktop computer and can type stuff out. And that's where I would lean towards like a Bard or we should just start saying Gemini, just like X and stuff. But for me, I use ChatGPT's essentially a little bit more because there was a mobile app. And so I was kind of bouncing between social media apps and trying to use, whether it's finding it for how can I tweak this post and give me some different hashtags or ideas. And so that's why I kind of lean towards that. I had easier access to it because I don't think there was a Google app for the AI, at least not that I'm aware of right now. There might be.
You're right. I mean, and again, I don't know that the output of Bard or Gemini is superior to ChatGPT or that ChatGPT is superior to Bard. I feel like they're both very similar. So I think, whatever you're most comfortable with, whatever's most convenient, either way, it still applies. You don't want to, I could tell you that there's different ways that they can tell that it's AI generated content, because if you ever do copy and paste something and you put it into a website, let's say, and then you look at the HTML for the website, there's code in there to tell them that it's Chat GPT. So you don't ever, and I actually feel like you potentially open yourself up to being penalized if all you're doing is just taking AI content and stuffing it onto your website and you're not really spending a lot of time really thinking about it. I think there's potentially a penalty there. So again, be aware that, if you're just taking content out of Chat GPT and just putting it on your website as content, the search engines likely know that it's AI derived content, and you're probably not getting as much benefit from that content as if it was not AI derived content. You could just as easily take AI derived content, spend a little time, wordsmith around it, use it as inspiration, and put something up that's going to be unique to you and has your fingerprints on it. And you're probably going to be much better off than just taking it and putting it straight in there.
Yeah, and you've mentioned this before in a slightly different way as far as trying to trick the algorithm. And I think the algorithm is always going to smarten up. It's constantly learning, constantly evolving. And so I think, just like we've mentioned before, of not just trying to have, I'm going to load this page with a bunch of keywords so that people think that this is where this is coming in. It's no different than I'm going to load a bunch of AI stuff in here just to kind of fill it with content. Like the AI, the algorithm AI is going to be like, oh, hey, that's I know that guy over there. Like, and so it's being able to realize, like, you're going to get caught, whether it's making sure that you're putting up, if it's quality AI work. And like you said, if you've kind of wordsmith and it's like your paragraph is here, you kind of have a couple sentences that where AI helped and kind of build out something, like you mentioned, like it kind of have the structure of the bones, and then you kind of fill in with the AI is definitely something that can be useful.
There are tools out there if you want to make sure you're modifying the content enough to where it's your content, not AI content. There are tools out there to where you could literally drop the entire, article that you wrote or blog article or whatever into that, and it will test it and give a likelihood of it will scan it to see if it's got the telltale markers of AI. So from a standpoint of making sure that you're not doing it, you could always use that as a test. I sometimes use that as a test if I ever use AI to make sure that I have put enough of my fingerprints on it that it still doesn't read like AI. And because I want it to be my work, I don't want it to be AI's work, but I do utilize AI for certain things. Like I said, like, hey, I need 50 more words for a conclusion. And, the main content is all my work and everything like that. Now I want to get up to 600 words. So it's not thin content. I will utilize it for things like that. And it always works really well. And it saves you a lot of time.
I also was going to say, because we've talked a lot about just using it for content. And I think one of the things that I first discovered early on was just using it to kind of not do research, but kind of you're finding more ways to, I don't know how that got up there. But hey, we're always figuring out, I still don't know how we get those little thought bubbles that come up. But kind of doing it for like what's the word, like knowledge digging kind of my dad, when he came down, I kind of showed him, he does the work at like the VA and takes a lot of calls of guys with like different ailments and then has to refer that over to the doctors. And then kind of, he's like a middleman in there. And one of the things, it was like every time that there was a word or whether it was a disease or just something he didn't know, he would I was like, take that, put it into your AI and it'll spit out in kind of a much more easy to understand, digestible, like piece of information. So then you can, it makes you a little more understanding of what somebody's going through because you actually understand what this complicated word is. And so even if it's something that you come across or trying to learn, I've done that where I've trying to figure out how to write code or figure out how to do something that's a little more complex that I don't know how to do, I've typed that into at least, hey, how can I, or what can I do to fix this, and what other pieces should I think about? So it's a problem solver to me.
Well, and I'll tell you a reason a lot of people might think, it's not. I'll give you an example of a way that it's being used. It has nothing to do with marketing or anything like that, but it just gives you an idea where things are going and how it's helping people. They're beginning to use AI in the medical field, to your point about your dad, to where they can actually upload blood work and things of that nature that they have from a patient and actually utilize the vastness of AI to, like, let's say that somebody's sick, presents themselves, you don't know whether it's a bacterial infection or a viral infection. They can use the markers of the different blood work and everything like that to come up with the likelihood that this is a viral infection, or this is a bacterial infection, or things like that. So even doctors, they're not relying on it. I mean, AI is not prescribing drugs, but they're utilizing it to say, given all of this, which would be impossible for a doctor to do, given all of this, the likelihood is this particular person is dealing with a viral infection, or this particular. So if you're dealing with a viral infection and they send you home with an antibacterial script, it's not going to do anything for you to help you feel better. So, they're even utilizing AI in the medical field to help them become more precise with what they're doing. Doesn't mean that somebody doesn't still have to go to medical school and do everything they got to be to be a doctor, but they are already in that field starting to use AI to help them do their jobs better.
Yep.
And I think if everybody starts thinking about it that way, it doesn't displace your job. It helps you do your job better.
It'll displace some jobs, I think, but to me, you nailed it. One of my buddies is a doctor down in North Carolina. When I first last year kind of was discovering playing with the different tools, I sent it to him and was like, hey, what do you think? And he's like, we're already kind of utilizing this. And it's like you mentioned, it's almost like another, not a doctor, but it's another, whether it's a nurse or just another person that can kind of give you feedback that you might not have thought of. It's like, and like you said, and it's able to take a whole bunch of data and process it really fast and kind of give you the best options of what this could be.
Yep.
But it's also one of those, like you said, it can't be just taken. You can't just be like, all right, I'm going to take number one that's on this list, and then all of a sudden you have a malpractice suit. So
that's why I was saying earlier that this is marketing. It's not life and death like being a doctor would be, but you can't just take something AI is doing and trust that to be like no more than they can say, hey, tell me what I should prescribe for this patient. But they can have AI help them to understand what's happening with that patient better so that they can make a more logical decision on what they should prescribe. So you still need to have the knowledge. You still need to have the expertise, but they're utilizing it as a tool. In marketing, you still need to have the knowledge. You still need to have the expertise. You still need to know what you're doing, but you can utilize AI to help you to potentially do a better job. Whatever the case may be, your situation, you know how to manually chop those videos up and make those to be exactly what you want, but you're utilizing AI because it allows you to make 30 pieces of content in the time it used to allow you to make 2 pieces of content.
Yep.
I mean, so I feel like if nothing else, and we're right up against the time, nothing else, I feel like this week hopefully has encouraged some of you to be like, AI is not going anywhere, and you need to start playing around with it and understanding it, because I am astounded in the last year at how far it's already come. And if you wait another year or two to really start to try to understand this thing is going to be going this train is going to be going so fast, it's going to be hard for you to catch up and understand how to use it, what you can do with it. I would encourage you, if nothing else, if you learn nothing else from this 30 minutes, just start playing around with it. Learn what some of these programs can do. Doesn't mean you need to use it every day or anything like that, but don't have your head in the sand and not understand it at all, because this is going to change things in a big way. And the sooner you can sort of start thinking about it and thinking about ways you can use it and at least familiarize yourself with the basics of it, the better off you're going to be 12 months from now, 5 years from now, as this becomes more and more and more prolific.
Yeah. I'm going to drop one last one here. I put a whole bunch of different sites that I think people should check out. And I saw some people like, I'm not on social media. We hear so many different reasons of why we don't want to use AI. Try this one here. If you have kids, I want you to go to this animated drawing site. Take a picture of, my son draws all kinds of crazy pictures. Have him draw like a stick figure. You take a picture with your camera. It might actually, I'm not sure if it's an app. No, it's on desktop. Put that image that you took of their drawing into this. It'll animate it for them. All of a sudden, so their little drawing or picture can become like, it gives you like 30 different videos. And so you can kind of do this with I did this with my son. It's like, hey, and then he's like, let me draw another one. And so it was a fun 30 minutes. It's playing around. You don't have to like overthink and be like, oh, I don't know what AI is. Like, this essentially is what AI is. It's creating who knows what. And it's finding these little things that are fun.
Think about pre-AI. Think about pre-AI, how much work it would have taken to take a picture that your son drew and create animated videos from it.
Yeah. And we did
hours and hours of work.
For days. So yeah, and that took us a couple minutes to do like 5 or 6. And so he was having a lot of fun with it. And for me, it's like, I can imagine what he's going to know about AI in 10, 15 years, just because he's going to be growing up with it. So it's like I grew up with like the invention of the internet was kind of happened while I was in high school. So not the internet, but mainstream internet that everybody had it in their home. So the way that things are changing, it's crazy and ridiculous. And we really, really hope that you guys don't just ignore it and shut it out. Like, check it out, please. It's going to help you. We're not trying to trick you into some scam. It's like, we're not telling you, I've got sites here, but I have no.
Yeah, we have no
affiliation with any of
these sites.
Yeah,
we're not giving you any links that are, an affiliate marketing type link or anything like that. I mean, we're just trying to get you guys to take a look at some of these things and understand them. And if you have any questions, if you're utilizing one of them or whatever, throw it in the comments, send a direct message to myself or Ronnie. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, nobody's an expert in this. We're learning it every day the same way you guys are learning it. I mean, the only thing we do is because it's part of our jobs, we're probably a little bit more engrossed in it than you guys are, but nobody's an AI expert. It's been around for a year. We're all learning it as we go. So if you have questions, if you came across something that's pretty cool that we didn't mention or whatever, let us know about it too. We're always looking to learn. And again, don't sleep on it. I can tell you that. Just don't sleep on it. It's going to be there. It's going to continue to be more and more important. Make sure you're at least knowledgeable about it.
Yeah. I'm no AI expert, but I'm an expert in my experiences with it. So please ask if you guys have questions. We would love to help you kind of work through whatever. So
absolutely.
We will end it here, and we'll hopefully see you guys next week. Make sure to go check out all of our pages, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I got to talk to you about Patrick. We'll have to figure out how to get going more on the TikTok. But we really, I've loved seeing kind of the interactions and stuff that we've been getting, whether it's here. Thank you, everybody that commented. There was a lot of you. We really appreciate it. And so make sure to check out all of our stuff, and we'll keep coming out with more.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Have a good week.